It has been a long damn time since I've critiqued a video of a defense of a video game. And today the game is Starfield, a game which I'm sure you all know if you have watched literally anything on my channel, whether you're new, whether you're old, you know I just love Starfield. I love everything about it. Funny enough, I have 100% of the game, and I just had massive critiques of the game, especially after the Shattered Space expansion, where it just made everything seem worse, and it just seemed lazy. But today we're going to be critiquing a Starfield defense video, because we still have people in this industry, in the gaming industry, that like to just defend games that just aren't that good. And you know what? You can have your opinion on Starfield, and you can enjoy it, and I understand if you enjoy it. I see the aspects of it, but you can't say it's Bethesda's best game, okay? Because it's fundamentally not. But today's video is by Renfail. Now, first of all, nothing hateful against the guy whatsoever. You know, I enjoyed the video. I actually did. He's a very good commentator. Comparative to me, I don't think I'm as good, but you know what? Like, he's very chill. I respect that. But I do fundamentally disagree with a lot of things that he stated in this video. So without further ado, let's just get started.
It's kind of wild to me how we are 2.5 years out from the release of Starfield, and you still have people who hate this game with such a passion. It is so obvious at this point that it is forced hate.
This is probably by far one of the most worst, just awful deflections of Bethesda and Starfield critiques that I've ever seen in my entire life. No, it is not forced hate. It is critique of a company and of a game that people enjoy and that people want to see better of, okay? It is not forced hate. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people hate just to hate because they have nothing else to do with their lives, because they don't enjoy anything. But the majority, like I'd say 90% of the critiquing of Starfield is not forced hate.
Because they don't like how the game has performed on Steam. And yet, if you sit and listen to what Todd Howard has had to say about the game, in terms of it being one of the biggest performing Game Pass games that draws people in.
I might be completely out of the loop here, but if someone can point me in the direction of when Todd Howard said that in an article or anything in the past year, even like at launch, understandable, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure it was the number one single player game for Game Pass. That was a fact. But now, I don't think that's a reality. And like, I want to know where he said that in the past 6 months to a year.
This goes to show you that it's kind of like the movie industry. If you sit down and watch the recent discussions with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, where they were promoting their, I think it's called the RIP film that they did with Netflix, the metrics of movie making have shifted so far beyond ticket sales, but you still have a certain subsection of the audience who believe that ticket sales are an indicator of whether or not a film is successful. And the reality is that ticket sales don't necessarily mean anything these days. What matters more is hours consumed, subscriptions driven. The revenue model has completely shifted.
Okay, so comparing video games to movies, I just feel like is not a good comparison at all. And you're also comparing a video game that released in Game Pass, a subscription model, to movies that are released in theaters that require one-time sales to be successful, right? Starfield did not need to require one-time sales to be successful. I agree with you there. But there's no consistency here in the terms of Game Pass players are still playing Starfield, right? Or else, I mean, like, I'm sure Bethesda would have released updates quicker. Like, I'm sure Bethesda would have released patches quicker, because I am pretty sure, and you can, search it up. I'm pretty sure Todd Howard promised patches every 6 weeks. And you know what? Where are the patches? It's probably because maybe the game just isn't that successful right now. And you know what? I hope in the next year, it just blows up. I truly do. I hope everyone comes back to it, and I hope everyone loves it. I hope they release an amazing DLC, an amazing expansion, and I'm excited to play it if it is good. But, like, this is just such a weird comparison for a movie that requires one-time sales and a video game that could have both, but realistically also would massively benefit from one-time sales.
And we have consistently seen that Starfield has been a top performer with Game Pass.
That is actually factually untrue. I went onto the Xbox PC App Store, and it was actually in the 56th place on the most played games on the PC Store. 56th. They were paid games above it. They were Game Pass games above it. It is not a super successful game, okay? 56 on the entire Xbox Store is good, but it's not like it's in the top 10, top 20, top 30, top 40, even top 50. It is just not successful for long-term growth with Game Pass. It just literally isn't. And you know what? They had over 300,000 Steam concurrent players, okay? And now they're averaging about 3,000 to 4,000. They have barely been able to retain 1% of their player base. And it has the Creation Club, and it has mod support. The Elder Scrolls 5 has better support. Fallout 4 has better support. Like, Fallout 76 and is an online game, but it has better support. It blows my mind.
Over the 2.5 years since its launch, which just goes to show you how powerful of a draw this game is in terms of the Bethesda titles. Now, beyond that, someone posted this on Twitter the other day. I got to pull this up really quick because I found this to be a fascinating um, discussion point from Starfield Eclipse.
Okay, so I'm not going to genuinely take the defense of a video game for someone who actually puts that video game title in their actual like username, okay? It would be like me, and I'm a fan of Fallout 76, putting Fallout 76 Eclipse. And I'm making a video defending the game, calling everyone who didn't like the game a hater, calling everyone who said the game was bad at launch a hater. Like, bro, he has Starfield in the name. Like, of course he's going to defend it. Why should I take his opinion any more seriously than yours even?
Is the name of their account. They were talking about every couple of months the Bethesda anti fans pull out the Steam charts to proclaim the death of Starfield. These are the same people reading the tea leaves of Steam and declaring Marathon dead on arrival a few hours into a demo. The reality, Starfield is number 11 on Nexus's most modded games chart.
Okay, so first, it is primarily Bethesda games that top the Nexus game chart, maybe with also like CD Projekt Red, also with Larian with Baldur's Gate 3, but it is primarily Bethesda games that top those charts. So no, really, Starfield would be 11th. But 11th, really, their newest game, their most expansive game, is only 11th? Like, we've had modders actually come out and state that they've stopped working on the game because of how depressing it is to work with a game that is so busted, that is so boring, that is so uninspired. And you know what, in my opinion, look, I think Bethesda just creatively did an amazing job with Starfield. Okay, the concept of being in the middle of the space like time situation where it's like, look, we're not at the point where we're moving everywhere like Star Wars. We're not at the point where we're just getting started. It's like we're in the middle. I think that's a really cool, space punk kind of esque thing. But this is the reality of the situation here. 11th on their most expansive game ever after almost 3 years, I think is a problem. I think should be higher. And you know why they have so many mods? Because modders have to fix their game. It's because modders have to fix the graphics, have to fix the companions, have to fix the quests, have to fix the guns, have to add the guns. There's so many problems with the game. When you have more mods that isn't just like customization, that isn't like adding things to do, because all of the mods that are adding things to do are paid mods on the creation store. And I made a whole video talking about that over a year ago, and it was literally like a 20-minute rant.
If Starfield were dead, nobody would be making mods or downloading them.
Another man's trash is always another man's treasure. A perfect analogy to that sentence.
12.2 thousand mods and 152 million downloads didn't create themselves. Now, what's interesting, if you look at this, obviously you have other games on this list, like Fallout 3, which has been out for far longer than Starfield, The Witcher 3, which has been out for far longer than Starfield, Oblivion, which has been out for far longer than Starfield. Baldur's Gate 3, I think, is somewhere in the same ballpark in terms of when it came out. But the numbers aren't that far off if you look at like the 17 and a half, the amount of mods.
No, the amount of mods aren't that far off, right? With about 5,000 more mods for Baldur's Gate 3. But the problem, and the really funny thing here, is that he neglected, to my understanding, to point out the number of downloads. Starfield had about 150 million downloads. Baldur's Gate 3 had about 420 something million downloads, almost 3 times the amount, with a game that came out around the same amount of time. It had more downloads because more people were playing the game. More people wanted to have an experience with mods. And if you go on Nexus, which I have, the majority of the mods for Baldur's Gate 3 are either just fun dicking around mods, ton of customization mods, sometimes companion mods, sometimes a lot of clothing mods, sometimes like photo mode mods. There's so many things that add to the customization of Baldur's Gate 3. It is rarely patches to fix the game. Unlike where Starfield's top collections are all patches that just fix the game.
Right, that have been created. So I think that like between like Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield is what I'm getting at, like 12 and a half to 17. There's a few thousand more mods for Fallout 3, but Baldur's Gate 3, a lot more for Oblivion. But Oblivion's been out for 20 years at this point. The Witcher 3 has fewer mods than Starfield and slightly more downloads. So it's just a really interesting thing to look at the actual data when it comes to the amount of people who are playing the game. It doesn't have anything to do with the Steam charts.
So what I'm getting at here is you'd rather use Nexus mods to defend your own horrible defense of Starfield, at least in my opinion, because the numbers are bigger than the Steam charts because the numbers are smaller. Right? That's exactly what's happening here. You're using Nexus mod downloads and mod creations because the numbers are higher compared to the Steam players, right? Even though the Steam players are the only players that directly contribute to the mod downloads. Like, what?
I just saw another creator today who was commenting on how the game just seems to not be doing very well, and he went straight to the Steam charts and was using the Steam charts to proclaim that the game is some sort of a failure.
Bethesda had 330,000 people playing Starfield at launch. That is a huge amount, right? Like a third of a million people playing concurrently on launch day on Steam. Well, it was on PC Game Pass, a success. Out of those 330,000 people, out of the concurrent players, because there are millions of copies sold on Steam, more likely than not, barely 1% of them have decided to stay in Bethesda's biggest, most expansive, and a game that they wanted to go for a decade. Right? They wanted this game to be the game to bridge the gap between The Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5. And unfortunately enough, it has fundamentally failed. Now, can they turn it around? Yes. Do I hope they turn it around? Yes. But so far, they have failed.
And the reality is that in terms of its Game Pass appeal, um, this is one of the best performing Game Pass games out there, and it continues to pull a strong audience. And after 2.5 years, as we can see on the Nexus mods list, it's doing quite well and growing steadily.
Okay, so like I said earlier again, it's 56th on most played Xbox PC charts, right? 56th for a Game Pass title, for a Bethesda title. Other Bethesda titles are higher. Fallout 76 was higher. Fallout 76, and that game goes for like $8 on Steam sometimes. So why are people playing it on PC Game Pass? Just stuff like that. And again, you're like the Nexus mod comparison. It's like it's just bigger numbers. You just rather use it because it makes you feel better, because it makes your defense feel better, because you're using a number in the millions instead of a number that barely cracks 4,000.
And if there was no one playing the game, the mod lists wouldn't be growing, and the amount of downloads that people would be growing that wouldn't be growing as well. In addition, you wouldn't see companies like Kingath Creations putting out such amazing mods like the Watchtower mod or the At Hell's Gate mod, which was the Doom tie-in.
So I don't think one human on the planet has proclaimed that Starfield has no players whatsoever, but we also have to take into consideration that, of course, yes, the Nexus mods will keep being made, Nexus mods will keep being downloaded. But then, like, also talking about the Tower, mod that was made by not a company, but by just like a group of like a small development studio, I'm pretty sure, like a group of fans, right? But they also sold that on the Creation Store. So like the amount of players playing that is probably really low. And the Doom tie-in I've played, and I enjoyed. You get like the Doom Slayer outfit, the sword, and the shotgun. That was cool, but like that was also free.
Those mods wouldn't be published and wouldn't be selling so well if this game was such the miserable failure that the haters would have you believe it is.
So again, the Doom mod was free, and the Tower mod, which I'm pretty sure is paid, you haven't shown me a metric on. You haven't shown me how many downloads it's had. You haven't shown me how many ratings it's had. Like, this is where some like basic editing could come in, right? Because all you really need to do is go onto the Creation Club thing and show me a screenshot. Now, I don't have Starfield installed, so I'm not going to do that because I'm going to wait for the new DLC to come out. But like, if you're defending Starfield, this is the point you need to be bringing up here. How many downloads does it have? How many people actually paid for it? How many people bought credits? Because if you're a premium edition owner, you were given 1,000 credits. Like myself, I was a premium edition owner. I purchased it for the Shattered Space Future DLC in the early access. So like, was it just the edition that, people bought early? Or did like people buy more credits to get this DLC?
Now, I get it. It's not for everyone, but no game is going to be for everyone. I have talked long and heartily about the fact that I'm not a huge fan of Elden Ring. It doesn't change the fact that Elden Ring won Game of the Year and is a game that many, many, many people love. I'm just not a big fan of Souls-like games. It doesn't change the fact that it's a fun game, it's a good game, many people have played that game. We always go back to the discussion on ice cream. We can all agree that ice cream is delicious, but we all have different flavors of ice cream that we enjoy more than others.
Okay, so I agree on the Elden Ring thing, and like how, because you don't enjoy it, that, other people can enjoy it. I get that. But like, I'm going to just speed through the ice cream section because like I do agree about like the kind of analogy here. It's just like, why are we talking about ice cream for so long?
I happen to like chocolate chip, caramel, cream, macadamia nut white chocolate. I mean, I like lots of different types of ice cream. But like Fred's brownie chocolate, dark chocolate, triple chocolate, those are always going to be my favorites. Other people might be like, chocolate is the worst flavor ever. I prefer vanilla. And when you look at video games, I kind of tend to package those all together as different flavors of ice cream because games at the end of the day are something that everyone can enjoy in one flavor or another. It's just which flavor resonates the most with you. My
biggest problem with this video now is that he made me hungry, bro. Like come on. Like, what? Why did you have to mention like literally like 8 different kinds of ice cream, bro? Like, now I want ice cream. Come on.
Starfield for me, I think this is interesting because we had somebody who came into one of my streams, and I didn't know this until someone said this in one of my streams a couple weeks back. They said, "Hey, how did this game go from being just a meh game to being your favorite Bethesda game over time?" And I was like, "What do you mean? I've never called it a meh game." And he's like, "Yeah, you did. Go watch your original review." And so I did. I went back on a live stream and we went back and watched my original review of Starfield. And sure enough, in the review, I said, "The game is meh. It's a good game, but it's not a great game. But it could become a great game with time and patches."
What I actually find hilarious is that I was in the complete opposite boat. When Starfield originally came out, I was a massive fan of it, right? But as I replayed it, as Shattered Space came out, as more content additions came out, I realized it's just like there's so many fundamental flaws with the game, right? Like for one example, they don't let you kill anyone you want. And I've made this critique in so many of my videos talking about Starfield, but like they literally made a system that lets you restart the universe, restart all your choices, but they don't let you just slaughter everyone. Like why are companions and normal people not killable? Like, you literally gave us a function to restart the universe, and I've said this so many times in my videos, but you don't let us kill everyone. Like, just such a small thing that could be changed with one line of code. And it's just like, you just don't let us do it.
And over the past 2.5 years, the game has continually patched in and added new updates for free alongside the paid DLC of Shattered Space. And all of those updates, specifically the rover update, the overland map update, the game option like the survival mode options, that update, there have been several pivotal free updates. Pivotable? That's not the word I was looking for. There have been several pivotal is what I meant to say.
Okay, so the rover was meant to be actually, and this is an article that came out, the rover was supposed to come out with Shattered Space, and Todd Howard actually came out and stated that because they released it early, he feels like Shattered Space wasn't as well received. He actually said that. He said that because they released content early, that their big expansion wasn't well received. The map update, and I know what he's talking about, the local map update. Like, you have two kind of maps in Starfield, right? You got the planet map, you got the universe map, and you got the local map. The local maps were a joke, okay? They were a joke. They were unusable. And like after like several months, they fixed it. Like it took you several months to fix the maps? And then like basic things as well, like FOV sliders. You messed it up with Fallout 76 because you didn't have like on PC. This was a problem on PC. They didn't have FOV sliders on PC. That was the thing they didn't have with Fallout 76. And then instead of learning from that mistake, they just did it again. And it's like, look, awesome that they're free content updates. That is awesome. But they've also been more focused on the paid content updates. For the people who are real Starfield fans, like real people who have been consistently staying with the game, they would remember the bounty hunting DLC that they released. The one mission that they gave you, right? A whole new little faction, a bunch of new missions. They gave you a new mission that was like, you know, it's kind of like go kill a guy kind of mission, right? And they sold you other bounties through the Creation Club. That was Bethesda made content, not mods. Bethesda developed content that they decided to sell to us for like $5 to $7 per mission. Those missions would have lasted you 30 minutes at max, and they wanted to sell them for about $7 a pop. And the worst part is you can't even buy $7 worth of credits specifically. You got to spend about 10. So $10 a pop to get a bounty hunting mission that is Bethesda created on the store that is meant for modders to make money through Bethesda's game. They are creating their own mods to sell to us instead of releasing content in a game that was lacking content after you play through it more than once, because it's like, oh my god, wait a minute, it's all just boring fetch quests half the time that I've already played, and there's no really difference in like the choices realistically, because you know, in a game where they want to restart the universe all the time, they don't give you a ton of different choices. Like, it was one of the most stupid systems. And I'm sorry I'm ranting about this, but like they sold us mods on their own mod store. Like, Bethesda developed mods.
That have happened along Starfield's post-launch schedule that have refined the game in a way that continued to push it up on my list of favorite games from Bethesda until it has become my favorite game that Bethesda has made. Mostly for the simple fact that it is a science fiction game, and I do love science fiction more than I love fantasy and more than I love post-apocalyptic, which is why if you ask me about franchises, I will always say Starfield, Elder Scrolls, Fallout in that order, because I love all the games that Bethesda does. But for me, I like this game a lot because it's science fiction. I like the flying around in my ships. I love all the weapons that you can get. I love the weapon modding that you can do.
Like I said earlier, I agree with this. Starfield and Bethesda, they nailed the space punk style. The sci-fi style is awesome. It's just so much of the actual core that Bethesda was supposed to get right, they didn't get right. The style of Starfield, in my opinion, is awesome. The factions are really cool and really interesting. The creatures are really cool and really interesting. Some of the characters are cool and interesting. Just boggled down by some extremely mediocre writing and some extremely mediocre storytelling and just role playing. It's like, guys, you are the masters apparently of open worlds. I would argue Fallout 76 is Bethesda's best created map ever, at least in my opinion, for the differences in regions and color. And then you give us this? Like, how is the Fallout 76 team releasing better map expansions for free for Fallout 76, like the Burning Springs update, than you are with a paid expansion with Shattered Space? How? The environmental storytelling alone in 76's map expansions blows Starfield out of the water.
I like the companions. We've been running around with Barrett this time around, going through Shattered Space for the second time, which I haven't played since the launch version of the game when I went through it with Andreja. And I've been really enjoying seeing his perspective on things because he can sense things the way I can as a Starborn. So there's a lot here, and I think the fact is when you look at like what Todd has spoken to about this being a Games Pass beast, in terms of the number of hours played, it is an indicator that the game has done very well for itself and established itself as one of those core Bethesda titles. It might not necessarily be on Steam where it is seeing its biggest success, and I think that's the trigger point for a lot of people, is because they are accustomed to seeing Steam charts be the sole indicator of whether or not a game is doing well.
Okay, so Starfield is Bethesda's newest title, so I hope they see it as a core, like one of their games. I hope they see it as a core focus. They've also only been supporting 4 games, maybe 5 if you count Fallout Shelter, right? Elder Scrolls 5 with their creations, Fallout 4 with their creations, Fallout 76 obviously, which gets the most support, and somehow the best support and most consistent support, and then Fallout Shelter, which has been getting more mobile support, which is good. They support 4 to 5 games. Okay, that is what they support. And I hope that their newest game, with their newest version of their engine, would be getting the support necessary, but they're not. It has taken almost 2 years now to release this big expansion, which I'm praying to God it comes out next month, because if it doesn't, oh my God, I'm going to lose it. Like, if it's just a 2.0 update, no, we need new content. We need new story expansion. We need a new companion, because I do agree. I like the companions as well. I think Andreja's awesome. Barrett is hilarious. Sam is cool. Sarah's awesome. All the companions, decently well written. Their stories, decently well written. But like, oh my God, Starfield needs something new, okay? You can't just release like, hey, look, we're going to maybe have less loading screens. Hey, maybe, look, we'll do better space exploration, because that should have been in the game day one. We need new content to go along with these fixes, because if I come back to Starfield and it's just fixes, I'm going to be bored. I'm going to be like, I've already played all this content. But if you give me a new story, new things to experience in the game as well, I'm going to have a better outlook on what you've actually released.
But when a game spends most of its time as a Game Pass product on Xbox and PC,
Starfield has spent the same amount of time as a Game Pass title and as an Xbox PC title as it has on Steam. The same amount of time. So that is not a good comparison to have.
it's kind of natural that those are the data points that we're going to be looking at, and that's the shift in the market. We no longer look at ticket sales as much as we look at hours watched in terms of Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and Paramount and HBO, and in terms of their television shows, and are these shows driving subscribers to the streaming services as opposed to putting butts in seats?
Okay, so again, comparing video games and movies, not the best idea. Comparing a video game subscription, video game sales, to a movie and TV show subscription, right, to movie ticket sales, where movies in theaters require the one-time purchase, right? They don't care about the amount of hours. You could buy the ticket and leave. They don't care. They have your money. They don't care if you watch the product. They don't. They just want the ticket sale. The movie theaters want the concession sales, right? Microsoft, which, apparently they want the Game Pass recurring revenue. They do. And with Bethesda games, it's recurring revenue because there's longevity in the games itself. But Bethesda also needs to be releasing content on a consistent basis to keep someone subscribed to the service. And as Microsoft has been increasing prices of Xbox Game Pass, it just makes it look worse. Why would I pay a monthly subscription to continue to play a game that is not enjoyable, to play a game that is not fun, to play a game that was promised to have a new patch every 6 weeks, but hasn't had a patch in years? Like, seriously. There's a problem here with his fundamental argument and with his comparison of the movie theater ticket sales and TV show subscriptions to Game Pass and game sales.
At the movie theater. Now, I'm never going to change the mind of the haters out there, and some people are just going to continue to hate Starfield no matter what, and they're going to call everybody who disagrees with them a shill, who loves slop garbage, and this is the worst game that's ever made. But I think that anyone who is a true Bethesda fan, and what I mean by that is someone who loves Bethesda as a company, will find something to enjoy in all of their games, even Starfield.
You heard it here first, guys. If you critique Starfield, you're a Starfield hater and Bethesda hater. But if you're a fan of the company, right? Not of the developers, not of Todd Howard, but if you're a fan of the corporation, of the corporate product that releases the slop garbage that is Starfield, that has lied to us on a continuous basis, that is sold as mods created by Bethesda Game Studios itself. If you're a fan of the company, you'll find something to enjoy about Starfield. You can literally find something enjoyable about any video game possible, right? There is at least one it's just maybe enjoyable thing about a game, whether if it's laughably bad, whether if it's laughably hilarious, whether if it's actually amazing and it's well written. Okay, Starfield has good things about it, but like it's fundamentally being dragged down. Starfield is also a downgrade in so many levels from even Bethesda's own previous games. The outpost mechanics, for example, just why were they even in the game? It's a complete waste of resources to even make outposts. It doesn't make sense. On a game with so many planets, thousands of planets, why am I going to build an outpost when I'm never going back to it? Why would I ever go back to it? What is the reason to build an outpost? There's no structural, fundamental reason to build outposts in Starfield. Comparative to Fallout 4, where like you can actually build up a settlement and you get resources from it. You can get traders, you can get all these new companions, you can get so many different things. Where Starfield, it doesn't matter. It just makes more sense to have your own outpost as your ship. And that is where Starfield excels. The ship customization was amazing. And that is something that I can find that everyone should be finding good about Starfield, okay? But like, it is shilling. Like, it's, oh, if you hate, like, you're just going to call me a shill. You are a shill. These defenses are coming from someone that is quite literally a Bethesda and Microsoft shill. You have spent 13, 14 minutes making a video shilling for Bethesda and for Microsoft because you think that Nexus mods are a good system here to defend the poor Steam numbers. When it's like, oh, but Xbox and PC Game Pass, they get good numbers. They are 56th on the list for Xbox PC Game Pass, okay? For all games played, 56th. Not top 10, not top 20, not top 30, not top 40, not top 50, 56th. That is a problem for a mainline Bethesda title when Fallout 76 is higher on that list. Fallout 76